My surprise was to learn yesterday, no, not yesterday, I think it was just about 2 days ago, that Italy was also, much like France, unwilling to sign the agreement because there's a certain amount of political confusion and unrest among the Italian farmers. And during my conversation with Prime Minister Meloni, she shared her thoughts with me.
That she is not opposed to the agreement.
The contentious EU-Mercosur deal, 26 years in making, 722 million humans are involved, $22 trillion at stake. Brazil is playing hard to get the deal done, but the roadblock is France and Italy. Lula said Meloni is not against the deal, but the Italian Prime Minister seeks more time. France, too, has sought to delay the signature until its concerns about the impact of farmers were assuaged. 3 EU sources said the signing of the deal has been pushed back to January, as per Reuters report. Lula had warned that if the landmark deal was not signed this weekend, it would never be signed during his presidency.
This ongoing attempt at an agreement between Mercosur and the European Union, it has existed. It happened 26 years ago. It has been 26 years, and we are trying to make an agreement. This matter has evolved a great deal in recent years, and in the conversations and negotiations we had with the European Union, both with Ursula von der Leyen and with Antonio Costa, they made a commitment that this year we would conclude the agreement. I always knew that France was against it. I had many conversations with President Macron. I spoke many times with the French opposition. I even had a talk with Brigitte, who is Macron's wife. I asked her to open up Macron's heart to make this agreement with Brazil happen. Because, France doesn't really have all that much to lose, because of Brazilian agriculture, especially since they produce one type of product and we produce another, And if we have the capacity to produce, more and more meat.
Of beef, of pork, better than they are, it is what it is.
The most significant new development for our trade, from my perspective, was undoubtedly Italy. And so I took the opportunity to place a call today to Prime Minister Meloni, and I had a good discussion with her. And I made it very clear to her that the specific date of December 20th was not, in fact, a date that had been put forward by our delegation. The 20th of December was a specific date proposed by Ursula von der Leyen and Antonio Costa, stating that on the 19th, they would come to cast their votes in Brussels, and then they would arrive here for us to sign the agreement. My surprise was to learn yesterday, no, not yesterday, I think it was just about 2 days ago, that Italy was also, much like France, unwilling to sign the agreement because there's a certain amount of political confusion and unrest among the Italian farmers. And during my conversation with Prime Minister Meloni, she shared her thoughts with me.
That she is not opposed to the agreement.
She is currently experiencing a rather significant political embarrassment, which stems directly from the actions of the Italian farmers, but she holds a firm conviction that he is fully capable of persuading them to ultimately accept the proposed agreement. And she then asked me to convey that if we can just be patient for a week or 10 days or at most a month, Italy will be on board with the agreement, okay? I told her I would present what she told me at the Mercosur meeting and propose to my colleagues to decide what they want to do. Mercosur is 100% ready, unwilling to make this agreement, even though we won't be getting everything that we initially aimed for. The agreement is more advantageous, more favorable to the European Union than it is for us. And we told them that this agreement was extremely important from a political point of view, because it's a deal that involves 722 million human beings, $22 trillion. And it's an agreement that will provide a clear response. The very survival and continued existence of multilateralism against those who seek to build unilateralism. That's precisely why I want to get it done. Well, if it's not going to be possible to sign it right now, because it simply won't be ready, then I can't really do anything about it either. We'll just have to wait until tomorrow. They say that hope is always the very last thing to die, because it's incredibly easy for you to not know the full reality.
Earlier, Lula pushed Meloni and Macron to back the deal at the earliest.
And I truly hope that my good friend Macron and Prime Minister Meloni of Italy,
they must take responsibility, he says. This coming Saturday, I'm heading to Foz do Iguaçu to attend the UNASUR meeting, which will include the European Union's participation. I truly hope they bring the good news that they will sign the agreement and that they won't be afraid, afraid of losing competitiveness with the Brazilian people. Possibly on Saturday, we might sign the Mercosur European Union agreement, an agreement that has been discussed for exactly 26 years. It's an agreement that, if successful, involves, a GDP of $22 trillion and a population of 700 million, 72 million inhabitants. In what exactly is taking place right now concerning this agreement? The European Union is quite prepared to finalize the agreement. Mercosur is also quite prepared to finalize the agreement. But a rather small problem has suddenly emerged. President Macron of France is very much concerned about the rural producers in France, He believes they're going to lose their competitive edge in the dispute with Brazil, and they're not wanting to finalize the agreement right now because the people are quite rebellious in France. Even though I've told him repeatedly that Brazil does not compete with France's agricultural products. In reality, these are fundamentally different things. They possess entirely distinct qualities, and we are consistently yielding far more than they are. And I truly hope that my good friend Macron and Prime Minister Meloni of Italy, they must take responsibility, he says. This coming Saturday, I'm heading to Foz do Iguaçu to attend the UNASUR meeting, which will include the European Union's participation. I truly hope they bring the good news that they will sign the agreement and that they won't be afraid, afraid of losing competitiveness with the Brazilian people. And after the tariff situation, I've already had 3 meetings with President Trump. 3 meetings with President Trump. And in these 3 meetings, we managed to secure benefits for Brazil in every single one of them, including the aspect of tax reduction. And the most crucial thing here was to remove our minister, Alexandre Moraes, from the influence of his so-called linguistic law there, which is a law that punishes people. And all of this was done in defense of something truly sacred. All this in defense of something sacred. That is, the very first thing we did was to completely reject, to not accept any notion whatsoever of that inferiority complex, that stray dog mentality. The second crucial point was to accept the undeniable fact that Brazilian sovereignty and its democratic principles were absolutely not open for any discussion. The United States, just like Brazil, has every right and the courage to impose tariffs on any product it chooses from any country it desires in order to protect its own domestic industries. But one cannot tell a lie. And Brazil, it cannot tell a lie either. It's a decisive year where Brazilian society will have to define the country it wants to build. What country does it imagine leaving for its children and grandchildren? What kind of democracy will people want? This is not my first term as president, as you are all very well aware. I can confidently declare that throughout these past 3 years, we have successfully accomplished things that many believe were utterly impossible to achieve in this country. I take great pride, immense pride, in having managed to arrive here, in this situation that is highly comfortable from an economic point of view, from the standpoint of social achievements, and from the standpoint of democratic advances, which were by no means few. This is the year of truth. It's important that we don't forget that for the first time in 520 years, you have a president of the Republic arrested for an attempted coup. And along with him, you have 4 four-star generals arrested, something that had never happened in this country. This is the most exceptional moment in the history of this country, is that we have managed to consolidate things for the very first time. That democracy is truly worth the effort when it is exercised in its full potential.